tell me what Tourette's is, man. So if somebody doesn't know Tourette's, like what is it?
Okay, so when I grew up,
Yeah.
let me start there because I think it's a little bit easier.
Okay.
The way that I understood Tourette syndrome is that it's a neurological genetic disorder that's involuntary and has no cure.
Yeah. It's like just somebody working freelance really on their own. It's somebody just, the Lord, I feel like is just remixing somebody and they're just kind of shook.
Well, some people, it's bizarre when you see somebody, ticking because it's, obviously if you know it, it's not as bizarre.
Yeah.
But, just from... if you're just walking or you're at McDonald's or you're walking somewhere and you just start seeing someone bark like a dog, doing things uncontrollably,
we had a dude named Jim Wager and he would bust out the N-word every now and then, know? And I don't use the N-word unless you do, you know what I'm saying? But he was this white guy and he would and so a lot of times people would just take him over and like set him in like the black area of like the schoolyard, and just run off and like just wait for him to go off, and then and that was kind of wild. I mean, so you have, I guess kids can be more cruel about it, but yeah, I guess for most people, if they think about it, like if I think about it, I don't know about most people, but it's like, yeah, it's a disease or it's a syndrome or it's a thing where you are like involuntary. It's almost like somebody is like, you're a puppet of some dark lord or something.
Of a dark lord, yes. Some people believe that you actually are possessed by the devil kind of thing. Because it's just intense when you're watching it.
Yeah.
But let me just explain a little bit of how I actually experienced it, because it's sort of evolved over the years.
Okay. Because you had it. You still have it or you have it? You had it.
I don't have it anymore.
You beat it.
I beat it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
Wow, you beat it, man.
So, and I don't say that I cured it. It was a journey.
Okay.
And we can talk, I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But
yeah.
But basically, I even posted some videos about this. But basically, the way that I experienced Tourette's is that there's a very uncomfortable feeling on the inside.
Yes.
Okay. So I always would tell people, think of an itch.
Right.
So if like you think of an itch right now, you'll probably just get one.
Right.
That's just how it works. I don't know how that works with the mind.
Yeah. Itchcraft. That's called itchcraft.
Itchcraft. Yes. So see, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, you can start it. You think it, you get it.
You start thinking about it. Okay. So there's this uncomfortable feeling in my body.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, the only way I knew how to get rid of that feeling was to, or to say a word.
Okay.
Or to, thrust my hips, whatever it was,
yeah.
Okay? And as soon as I ticked, that itch went away.
Okay.
And it felt amazing, right? You just feel so much better because that discomfort, whatever that itch is, it was gone. Now, of course, when I was a kid, I didn't have that type of understanding about it, though. I just was... So basically there's the itch.
You don't have an understanding of it, so you're just living it.
I'm just living it. And I wasn't like, oh, I have this
and then
itch
I'm
and doing it. It all was one big mesh kind of ball of Tourette's,
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you use that analogy, though, you have to be careful because people could then, say, well, why'd you just not scratch it? Just don't scratch it. And that's a great question, but it's tough. Imagine having 10, like instead of just that one itch that you might be feeling on your leg, imagine now having 10, 15, 20 itches all in one spot.
Yeah. Oh, well, and if somebody looks at you and says, I have an itch right now and I'm not scratching it, that person is usually, that person's with Satan or that person is like that's a sociopath. You know what I'm saying? Imagine somebody leaning over to you and be like, hey, man. I have the biggest itch. I'm like, my leg, my arm is itching so bad, but guess what? I'm not going to scratch it. You're like, what a psychopath, So yeah, wanting to scratch an itch, that's totally normal. You can't not. It's like you would do it no matter what.
Yes, and growing up, I didn't know of any other way it could be.
Right.
That was just the way it was.
Right.
And so my definition of Tourette's now has sort of evolved over time, but this is kind of interesting for me, and this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
That itch that I described, to me, that's Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
That feeling, whatever that is, and then when you see somebody tick, or somebody would see me tick, that was actually me, in a sense, coping with my Tourette's.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
So
the itch is the Tourette's, the uncomfortability, the baffling uncomfortability, the need to do something, the incontrollable desire to act.
Yes.
That is the itch.
Yes.
That's the Tourette's. And then your reaction, your tick is
it's the release. It's the way that I can get rid of that uncomfortable feeling. Because as soon as that feeling goes away, you feel
normal.
You're normal.
Yeah.
But with Tourette syndrome, it's difficult because that feeling comes right back.
Okay.
You know,
it starts to build up again. Did you find ways that made the Tourette's feel more comfortable to you, or to kind of like quell it so that it didn't build up so fast? Because like you said, you relieved it with a tick.
Yes.
You would release it or relieve it, and then it would start to build up again.
I tried so many different things.
Okay.
I mean, I did medications.
Okay.
Well, the cool thing is with that analogy that I was describing with the itch and the scratch, now sort of looking back, I see that, and again, I'm not a doctor. This is my diagnosis of how I saw it. When you take medication, in a sense, that numbs the itch.
Okay.
So now if the itch is numbed, you have less of a desire to want to scratch that itch because you don't feel it as much. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of people with Tourette's or sort of other neurological disorders like that, I think that's so beneficial and helpful to them because they don't have that desire, like you're not ticking as much.
Okay.
For me, though, the consequence and the ramifications were the side effects from the medication.
Oh, really?
Basically, like...
I got wild ones? What is it?
Say that again?
What is some of the side effects?
Oh, some of the side... It was... I had sedation. I just was sleeping all the time. Even one time I had really suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a really depressed person.
Right.
But it messes with you.
Yeah.
And you're not the same. It's sort of like there's this kind of wall or this sort of like buffer between
you and the world.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or you and yourself almost a little bit. This might
That's
be a
probably
medication
more what
thing.
it's like, you know. That was my experience with it. You know,
No, man, that's a very accurate experience. I found that with antidepressants. It's like, yeah, I don't feel depressed, but I also don't know if I'm 100%, and I'm just sort of separated from my feelings overall. So I don't feel as much of whatever my feelings are.
Yes. And for somebody, that might be worth the trade.
Right. But for you, that wasn't...
It was not worth it, no.
It wasn't worth it.
I mean, I was... yeah, I mean, it's just tough. I mean, you're in such a difficult position already, you know. I mean, for a lot of people in my situation, or your tics are that bad, you're trying to do whatever you can to end this. I just remember a lot of times crying because it was just so bad.
Really?
So at that point, I go, you know what, Mark? You can beat this. And I ended up going back the following summer, and I took some more courses.
Really?
I was there for 17 days, and now I came with the intention. And every day I worked on my mind, my body, everything relating to the Tourette's, anything that I could think of because basically what I found is that my Tourette's was way more emotional and psychological than it was physiological.
Wow. Man, it's... I can't even tell you enough. Like everything you're saying, it's very similar to stuff that you hear in a lot of like 12-step programs, you know?
What if we could replicate this with other people? And so over the last 4 years, we've been able to replicate it with 10 other people with Tourette's.
Get into the program and get better.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, we created a special thing just for people with Tourette's. And this is the crazy thing. So it took me like 1.5 years to get down 90%, as I was describing. Guess how fast it's been replicated?
I don't know.
Take one guess.
7.
7 what?
I don't know.
Like 7 months?
Yeah, I think so.
4 hours.
Oh, wow. Jesus, man. I hate guessing.
People can get rid of using this, can get rid of
man.
Tourette's in 4 hours.
Oh, no. No, they can't. They really?
So I kid you not, it was probably one of...
That sounds like something I would say.
I'm dead serious. So I want to be really clear. It's not saying anybody can get rid of their Tourette syndrome. I'm saying people that had severe Tourette syndrome, that had tried tons of different things, that deeply wanted to get rid of it and end it for themselves. And also, you know, we went through quite an interview process because we were looking for very specific people that, you know, we thought just met a bunch of different conditions that thought, you know, that they would be a good candidate for this. For all of those people, I would say 7 or 8, 2 or 3 out of the 10 are down 70%.
Wow.
And the other 6, 7 are down 90 plus.
Wow.
And what was so neat is that once this started happening over the last 4 years, we had this incredible filmmaker who he goes, we got to start filming this. So we started to film it. And so what was so neat is that, you know, I would find someone with Tourette's, or someone would tell me about somebody with Tourette's.
Yeah.
And we would go through this whole process to see if they would be a good candidate. And then once we thought if we had, you know, a good candidate, a film crew would go out to their life, film their whole life with Tourette's. They would come work with us in Albany, beat their Tourette's, and then we would go back into their life and film their life without Tourette syndrome.